It's a Proud Live, something new and something different, which maybe I'm to blame tonight. I don't know. We normally would do Proud Spaces after High Point University basketball games, but unfortunately, Elon Musk is out to get me, honestly. Most of the time I attempt to do something that I would enjoy, talk with fans, have post-game reactions and thoughts. And the entire time I feel like I'm speaking in code because everything crashes around me and it's just difficult to make it work. So here we are live coming to you on X and also on YouTube after tonight's High Point disappointing loss, 86-84 at home. And I have so many thoughts, like most times, to get to tonight, as I'm sure many fans do. So right off the get-go, we want to hear from you. Certainly have your opinions and thoughts and questions. Send them over to this live stream and we can pump them up here. We can talk about them and try to let you air out some of your disappointment and frustration. And to do that, you can just reply on either X or on YouTube, and we'll post your comment and also your question or whatever that looks like and try to answer those here live tonight on Proud Live. I want to start off by saying I spent time after the game very briefly with Coach Clayman, and he was kind enough to give us some post-game thoughts tonight. Nothing about that is ever easy for, I'm sure, coaches and players to do after there are disappointing games and losses. And it's not easy for me either, because I am a fan first. I've always said that. And I really desire to see us win and see us succeed. And so I want to start off by just saying that I'm appreciative to Coach Clayman for giving his time, for taking the time to answer some of my questions. And those answers will be heard on our Proud Panthers podcast coming up on Friday. I think that all of you, as a part of this live stream, if you're a High Point University basketball fan, you will want to hear those comments. But what I can loosely share from them is that he has a great handle on where, when, how things slipped away for our High Point team tonight. Because we at the half were up by 12 points. And I feel as if when you're at home, when you're a very good and talented team, when you're still not probably playing your best basketball and you're ahead by 12 points at a break, I would like to think that that generally sets up for a positive result, a positive outcome. And it's easy for everybody to say a win's a win and a loss is a loss. That's super easy to say. But in reality, I feel like a loss like tonight is sometimes harder to stomach than if we just got blown out. Quite honestly, the UAB loss, for me personally, is easier to stomach and swallow and understand than this game tonight. Because a lot of what I saw was almost like a complete reversal of the team I have witnessed for the first games of this season. I have seen a team that, yes, has some letdowns, yes, makes mistakes and has some turnovers. Certainly, I have said that rebounds are a focus. I knew that coming into this game as well tonight for a Salukis team that really needs to be gritty with the way that they compete. And those things are going to happen. But I feel like there was a complete reversal of the team that I had normally been watching that came out for the second half tonight. And I don't know exactly where that falls. I asked Coach Klayman that question. And again, as I already stated, those will be shared with you on the Proud Panthers podcast on Friday. But just from my viewpoint, shot selection was kind of going haywire there for a few minutes. I recall 2 possessions where Rob Martin, I felt like, had some interesting choices, and a couple of possessions where Chase Johnson had some interesting choices. But please don't mistake, that is not me blaming the full outcome of tonight's loss on those 2 guys. I asked Coach Klayman about Terry Anderson after this game, because Terry finished the game with 21 points, had 10 rebounds, and it is his first double-double for a High Point team. But Terry was somebody that Coach Klayman said the way that he knows how T5 can play and who he is and all the adversity he's gone through and the leader that he is, Coach Klayman actually said that T5 is also partly to blame tonight, the way that started in the second half. And again, it's not just on his shoulders. It's like a team-wide reversal of what I have grown to expect from the team that I watched during summer practices all the way up until now. Coach Klayman and his staff make it very clear when they're coaching this team that just being lazy or being laissez-faire about the way that they're approaching offensive possessions, that's very, very important for Coach Klayman, because he is somewhat of a maestro when it comes to how the offense is actually being run and how plays are actually being called. But also, all the changes that this team has made on the defensive side is for that same reason. It's under the same mentality that we're not going to stand back and kind of be ambivalent about this. We're going to go and take it to them. We're going to try to force turnovers and force things to favor us, as opposed to just standing back and kind of being on our heels and responsive. And that is the way that they lead the team and coach the team start to finish. So to see the letdown from first half to second half, very surprising to me. And I still haven't really quite pegged what that could be. It's almost like everybody decided to have a brain fart at the same 12-minute stretch. I remember looking up at the clock, seeing that we were down by 7. I believe it was at the under 8 timeout in the second half. And I remember thinking, well, we've been down by 15 before. I know High Point fans know what I'm referring to there. Terry's seen that before. He's helped to lead the charge of a comeback and done that before. But to piggyback off of Coach Klayman again with this next comment, you can't wait and try to make up all the difference, make up all the errors and try to fix things all at the last second, because then you get burned. And while we're here talking about getting burned, I do think this wasn't captured on my post-game interview, so that's why I want to share it here. I do think it was interesting that Coach Klayman said that most of the games where he has been burnt on the receiving end of a disappointing loss, it actually has come when a team springs out with good shooting and really good offense in the first half. And he said that happens a lot of times because players get comfortable. So maybe that's what it was. Maybe everybody just got really super comfortable and started thinking that the game had ended only 20 minutes in. That could be a theory. I've got other comments to make, but I also don't want to leave people hanging. And so we are joined by Husky HPU Hoops Hops. Josh, how are you tonight, man? How are you stomaching this 86-84 loss for our Panthers team? Josh, we're having a hard time hearing you. If you are there, I certainly want your comments. And your mic is...
You got me now.
I got you now, man. What's up?
Oh, sorry. Good thing you didn't hear that. I was throwing up 10 3-pointers in my bathtub. So, I mean, that's the story, man. Like, look, this is a very skilled team in Southern Illinois. They've got, like, you can see that there's talent on the floor. But schematically, I mean, they're running a dinosaur offense. They're running like a Linux offense out there. And, I mean, it was apparent in the first half. They made 5 3-pointers. And, like, okay, like, it's fine. We're up 12. You know, left them open. Perimeter's been iffy. And they made 5 in the second half. But I think the problem was the second half, it came at backbreaking times. And they were open shots. And it's just like somehow the ball movement, the helper wasn't helping the helper. And then all of a sudden, somebody's wide open and boom. Another 3-pointer in.
Do you think that this was more of a result based off of a recipe for the upset, for instance, or do you feel like this is more of a defensive glare or letdown by the team?
It's hard to say, I think, because, you know, I mean, the guy who lit us up, I mean, Steffi in the first half, I think, had 2 or 3 3-pointers. He finished 4 of 7. You know, Damian Mayo is a career 28.8% 3-point shooter. 12.5% of his collegiate 3-pointers came tonight. He made 4. He's made 32 over 4 years. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with it. And it's just like, I mean, you wouldn't know it looking at how he's chucking it up out there, but you know, so it's a little bit of that, whereas, okay, they got burned a little bit. I mean, you know, we're still a top 100 team in 3-point defensive percentage. So I think it stings a lot more because it's a team that's literally like they attempted the least amount of their points on the season came from the 3-pointer. And the fact that it was 10 tonight, I think that's absolutely the difference.
I think that what you are basically answering there is more in favor of where I fall, and that is that SIU played a game that was built off of upset mentality, and that is that they come in having to know about themselves, right, that they're not a 3-point shooting team. That's not their place of emphasis nor their place of usual success. And so by trying to, you know, roll out a team that normally wouldn't take those style of shots and focus on that, and all of a sudden doing it on the road, it's almost like you got nothing to lose. And so I feel like that's a part of it. I also feel like that it just appeared to me in the second half that the Salukis wanted it more. Honestly, it seemed like they were impassioned. It seemed like they were set on continuing to chase after, do anything to fight for all the loose balls and chances that they could get a bounce to go their way. And I don't know, again, that they had any kind of thought coming in that they would probably even win this game, honestly. I just almost feel like they were willing to do things out of ordinary for themselves to try to pull an upset and end up getting that type of result. Now, I also have to ask you this because I realize that you having UConn fandom in your pedigree, that you are a Yusuf guy. So real quick, while I have you, Josh, give me your thoughts as to why or what you feel like might be going on with Yusuf.
Oh man, breaks my heart, man. That's sad. We didn't have to get all sad on the program, man.
Well, the
I
whole
mean,
thing tonight for me is sad, to be fair.
yeah. No, I mean, look, I think, watching Yusuf for 2 years, he obviously didn't get much time when he was at UConn, but, was a highly touted recruit, 4 stars. He's got the size. Clearly, you can see that. Just didn't have really like the polished game that you need to be successful at the D1 level. So doesn't get much playing time in 2 years. He fills in here or there, gets some garbage time minutes, whatever. But, he can at least be a physical presence on the court. And I think I was hoping for more of the same here early in the season. We saw him a little bit, but it's kind of been the same issues that have plagued him coming over from UConn. It's a lot of fouls and just kind of general in-game awareness hasn't been the top of the game, which is sad because I love, he's like the best guy on the planet. And I really wish we could find a way to get him into the lineup. But I think it's more just the same of that. And, it's a new team. And so no one really has their spot solidified. So if you got guys like, J.I. or Caden who are impressing more in practice, then like, of course they're going to get more minutes because really, so what? He's a UConn transfer. Like that doesn't mean, that was then and really didn't play much for 2 years. So yeah, man, it's sad. I honestly, that one I can understand. What I can't really understand is why Vincent hasn't played. I understand that he's got the finger injury, but I think the splint was off tonight. That was a catch by someone else that was in the crowd that saw that. So, but he hasn't played at all. And I feel like, I love Conrad, but at times tonight, just, obviously the last possession, you lose the ball and other things. We really needed some solid guard play tonight. And Vincent coming in, I feel like was going to be that guy. But yeah, I'm more surprised and confused by that than I think I am the Yusuf situation.
Yeah, I'll try to connect some dots there. And actually, I'm going to ask a favor of you, Josh. Post the link to join this in the comments if you can. I don't know if you can do that on your end or not, because I'd love others to be able to get in and join like this. This is a whole new, as I stated right off the top, process of learning on my end to try to make up for Elon's failures, to be quite frank, on the Spaces side. So Proud live here. And Josh being with us to answer the question of Vincent Brady. What I would say is that a couple things I feel are happening. I do know just by brief comments with Coach Klayman that Vincent is getting near to being back. That's the answer that I would feel comfortable sharing. Aside from that, I attempted to get some other information and ask some questions on that tonight, albeit probably to a person that didn't have a great rapport working with me. And I hope I didn't overstep my bounds there. I just honestly, genuinely care about the team and the guys. Again, I feel like I'm a small part of the team here a little bit. So sometimes I ask questions more just from my own personal curiosity than from like a, hey, I'm covering this standpoint. So anyways, I also feel like the other aspect to it though, and I don't know that this is the case, this is strictly from me. There is an easy way when your team is so deep to lose a spot. Everybody, that's common sense, I think, that when you have so many guys that are so talented, if you aren't doing the things in practice, as Josh alluded to with Yusuf, potentially, we don't know that either. But if you're not doing some of the things in practice, if you potentially get injured, if maybe you just don't jive with the other players or maybe even the staff once you get into the season, it would be a lot easier to lose your place in the line. You step out for 1 second. It's like school cafeteria. You step out for 1 second to go use the bathroom. You think anybody's going to let you back in the line on pizza day? I don't think so. It's like, hey, tough. You're at the back of the line now. And I don't know that that's the case for Vincent. Like I said, he may still just be gingerly coming back from the hand. And I think with the games that we've had, really until tonight, we're winning games by 10 plus points. So with that in mind, it's like, well, there's no reason to rush anybody back from an injury because everything's kind of under control and handled. Let's save a guy that's trying to nurse something until we really need him as the season goes. And that is a comment that I know as a fan, you really just hate to hear it sometimes, but there is a lot of basketball left to be played here. It's not like the season is ending tonight and it's the end of the world. Coming from a guy, though, like I've stated before, that I want them to win every single game. so I'm not going to push that as the message. Really, the message tonight for me is there was a letdown. There was a obvious shift of focus or attention to detail of completing the task at hand from first to second half. I feel like in a lot of ways, SIU got a lot of bounces to fall for them, threw up a lot of uncharacteristic shots, was taking chances to have a recipe for upset. And that happened. Interesting little tidbit or stat off of that will also drive you bonkers. I don't have all the stats on their three-point shooting. I can just tell you it's bad. And so that is one thing that is insane to watch for a team that just is not good at that. Hitting them at the percentages that they were in the times and the moment of the game that they were, it's crazy talk. But what also will drive you bonkers, or for me, is somewhat crazy, and that is Davion Sykes. He was number 4 for the Salukis. Tonight, he played 15 minutes, which is a generous portion of the game, not their most go-to first off the bench type player, but he got some minutes. During those 15 minutes, he finished the game 1 of 2 from field goal range with 3 total points. That one lone field goal was not a three-pointer. He had 1 point made off of a free throw attempt. So he went 50% from the line, 1 of 2. He was minus 13 for his time on the floor. And yet, when the ball bounced away from our final possession, Conrad with the ball attempting to drive left, ball bounces away. The Salukis steamroll towards the other end to try to attempt to make a transitional basket with seconds running off the clock. Davion Sykes makes the last second layup to win the game. Finished 1 of 2, 3 points. One of those came from the free throw line. Crazy stuff. But again, when you come out the way that we did in the second half, you can't be surprised at that. Garrett Whitcamp on X leaves his comment, just like you can, as you follow along with this Prowled Live tonight. You can leave your comments in the chat by replying to our live, or you can do that on YouTube as well. But Garrett Whitcamp says championship teams do not blow leads at home. And I don't think anybody would really disagree with that. I know that our head coach would agree with that based off of a comment that he made with me. And I keep teasing this because, hey, I need some podcast listeners, and I hope that you'll join our family of proud Panthers podcast supporters. But Friday, when we release that, you'll hear Coach Klayman make the statement that you to be successful, to win, to do all the things that amount to a championship, they have the opportunity. He, quote unquote, said to do something special, but that is to win, be successful, and win championships. That's the special in quotes here. But to do something special, this is a deciding moment for some of the guys in the locker room. So I don't think that Coach Klayman, and I don't really disagree with that either. Championship teams do not blow leads at home. I will put one little clarification on me not disagreeing, and that is that when you're up by double digits, I agree. I could see how if this game was constantly back and forth battle of two stalwarts that both deserve to be championship caliber teams, then I would probably disagree. But no, tonight, High Point was the favored team coming in. High Point was a team that had all the makeup to beat the Southern Illinois Salukis. The one place that I felt like coming in there would be concern would be inside. Points in the paint, we got outscored by 8, so not terrible there. Rebounds, though, was also in that paint area that I had concern over. We got out-rebounded by 5. Those were really the areas inside, down low. That's going to be the concern. Unfortunately, while that was a component to it, again, the recipe was in the mixing bowl to pull an upset when the Salukis start chucking up shots from 3 and actually knocking them down when ordinarily that would not be their MO. I have some comments on Conrad tonight because I realize that he was the person ball in hand as time was expiring on the clock. And so a lot of times you want that in your most trusted ball handler in their control because you're looking for the perfect play, the perfect possession. You draw something up that you trust. And that trust is very high for Conrad. And the trust hasn't wavered by the team for Conrad either. And so it's a tough one because no one wants to be the guy in that position. No one also wants to be like a guy that's heaving up a last second shot either and it breaks off, because there's so much other that's made up in the game than that one possession or that last play. HBU Hoops fan joining us here on Proud Live. What are your thoughts after tonight's disappointing loss?
What's up, Steven? Hey, yeah, tough loss, man. I don't know. It felt like I'm curious to get your thoughts. If you were more kind of concerned about the offensive end in the second half or just the defense the whole game, it felt like defensively the whole game we were just kind of lagging. I'm not sure if it was energy, effort, what exactly it was, but defensively, like we were kind of struggling against a team that really, maybe we shouldn't have been. And then, offensively, the second half, man, I don't know what, what buttons we pushed at halftime, but it seemed like we kind of came out. I don't think that we were flat, but it felt like at times in the second half we were trying to do things that maybe weren't there. And I don't know. What did you what if you had to put more focus on one or the other? What would you where would you land on that?
For me tonight, I feel like offensively, we're never going to have too many problems. Honestly, and I'm a little more old school, but honestly, when you score 84 points, you'd like to think that you're going to be in a lot of games. And that's actually lower than our average. Our average is up in the 90s per game. And so a lot of times for me, my concern for this team, well, even before the season, wasn't on the offensive side. I think the talent is lush. I think there are so many people that can score the basketball. So when a lot of times people are sharing concerns potentially over different players on the roster, it might be Owen, it might be Chase at times. It could be Scotty Washington, the way that he has had a very tumultuous up and down start to the season. A lot of times when all those concerns are being shared, my usual reaction is to feel like, well, we don't have to have everybody light it up on the offensive side to be successful. I would like to see some good spacing of the scoring. So tonight, I felt like a lot of the time, especially in the first half, it was the Rob Martin and Terry Anderson show, quite honestly. And when that starts to happen, you can hedge on players a little bit easier if you're the opposing team. So I do like to see a few, we'll say 4 ideally, in double digits of scoring, spacing, and sharing the ball really well. So I have really been somebody that focuses most of my attention for this team on the defensive side and also just the effort side. And tonight, defensively, where I found it most interesting wasn't having anything to do with those 3-point success or shots that were made by the Salukis. It actually was, and I sometimes hesitate to talk a lot about our defense, but again, so much is out there on film at this point. If you're relying on Prowled Live after a game to get your scouting report, then you're probably in for bad luck. I wouldn't recommend. But for what I have seen from our defensive side, we like to trap with a double team in certain areas, we'll say, of the floor on defense. And where it was kind of frustrating me was seeing the adjustments that Scott Nagy's team had made, which were good adjustments coming out of halftime, to realize that, hey, we're getting doubled at this position on the floor. Makes for a really easy pass to a slashing and cutting offensive scorer. And I didn't keep like a tally of this, but I just can recall quite a good handful of times in the second half where a player would be slashing off of that double team, get a perfect pass to either dunk it, there was some dunks had, or to lay it in right there, little bunny close to the basket. So that's where probably I would answer that. How do you feel on it?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's defensively, in my opinion, I'm no basketball expert here. It definitely feels like in the game, in the UAB game to some extent, and even if you go back to Western this past weekend, I think we are playing such an aggressive style of defense that it feels like some teams are starting to figure out some ways to maybe take advantage of that. If you Western had, if I recall correctly, about 5 or 6 backdoor cuts, it felt like, in that game. And there's definitely a balance there. If you're going to play aggressive, there's got to be discipline. There's got to be all 5 guys playing together, rotating over picking up guys on the box out. So yeah, I totally agree. The defense is definitely, you know, worries me a little more long term than the offense. Offensively we have a lot of weapons. We got a little unlucky, I think, on some shots tonight. It was not to make excuses, but there's definitely some shots that we might normally make that rimmed out or didn't quite sit our way, and they had some shots that they probably don't normally make that went in. So, yeah, I agree. I'm not as concerned offensively. It was just it was a little jarring. You're up 12 to come out in the second half, and we were kind of slow offensively that first maybe not the first few minutes, but it felt like there was a good stretch there, 5 to 10 minutes, where a lot of turnovers. Felt like we were trying to force things, but defensively, yeah, I agree. I think there's more concern and more work to be done. I should say necessarily, versus concern, more work to be done for sure on the defensive end.
As somebody that has followed High Point basketball for a while, Sam, what would you say is your feelings when our team loses a game like this? Do you feel like it's an opportunity of growth? Like you got to almost fail before it's like you fall before you walk kind of deal. You fail before you succeed. Or are you more of the mindset where it's just pure anger, vitriol, because now we have a blemish?
No, I don't think you can have any vitriol for sure, and I would hope that every game, win or lose, we're taking it as a growth opportunity. And look, I know you and I have had this discussion a number of times. I still think that whether you like it or not, our season comes down to how we're playing at the end of February, beginning of March, right? And so you can't lose a game in December and feel like your season is blemished or your season is somehow gone down in value just because you lost the game, whether it be at home, on the road, or whatever. And like I said, after UAB, you kind of find out what kind of team you have when you go through adversity, you go through losses. And so as a fan, you kind of, if you're a fan for a long time, you kind of reach that point where a loss in the regular season. Are you upset? Yeah, I didn't expect. You didn't show up to expecting to lose tonight, but all the goals are still on the table. And if I was a fan of High Point, if I was, we just watched that game, I would kind of try to keep that in mind that everything's still on the table. Winning the Big South regular season, winning the tournament, getting to March. I mean, this is a process. And the other thing to keep in mind, I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody here, but you got to remember, like Flynn Clayman, this is his first full-time head coaching gig, and this is a new group of players. Anybody who kind of thought we were just going to show up and run through our schedule and just have every game be a blowout or what you exactly expect, like that's just not how basketball works. So yeah, there's a learning process. There's things that go up and down throughout the season, but the goal of getting better every day, like that's what I'm looking for as a fan. Like hopefully this doesn't become a trend. If we're still seeing the same issues come mid-January, into February, then you've got clear signs of a problem. But one game, one good effort from a team that came in. Look, like those guys wanted to win this game, man. Like that's the other thing, that if you play for High Point now, and again, not making another excuse, teams come into our arena like the Cabane Center is not like the arenas that these teams that we are playing play in. They come in
Right.
this arena, they see we have a great crowd, great arena, great campus. That fires them up, man. They want to come in here and beat us. And if you play for High Point, you got to understand that. And like that's going to be every night. Teams are going to come in. They're going to try to give you their best effort. And we can say SIU's normally doesn't shoot that well, and they normally don't, play that well offensively. But you gotta believe that every team that comes in to play us is going to give us their best effort, and definitely if we go on the road, teams are going to do that. So yeah, that's just part of it, part of the learning process too. Tonight, maybe we were a little bit flat at times, but you got to bring it every night because every team that comes in is going to want to beat High Point and get that that kind of gold star on their resume too.
Yeah, there's so much there to piggyback off of. I would 100% agree. And that's where I kind of was trying to push the message that this Salukis team operated in a way that there was almost nothing they could lose. I don't say that to say that people were yanking jerseys like we've seen earlier inside the Cobain Center and doing really
Yeah. I don't
crazy.
think they were. Yeah, I don't think they were. You know, playing completely reckless or loose or anything like that. Yeah, but they. Yeah, I mean, they come in. It's a game in December, man. Like, I mean, what do they really have to lose? What do we have to lose in theory? Like they're gonna come in and give you that great effort, for sure. So it
What
didn't surprise me. I told, yeah, I go ahead.
I was going to say, I do feel like High Point has a lot to lose. With this game, I will be one of the flag bearers, and this is where you, Sam, had said we've had conversation about this back and forth already. But I will be the guy that everybody can try to bring pitchforks and flames against me. I do not like the thought or the mantra or the idea that, hey, all that matters is the weekend tournament, Johnson City, for those that love that town. I don't like
Yeah,
that thought.
I get, yeah,
I'm going to say, Sam, I'm going to say that my personal opinion is that if you are trying to build the best mid-major basketball program, which I do think is very much the goal, but also very much the possibility, then you have to take every single game with the mindset that we win this, we go up in rankings, we win this, we catch more attention, we win this, we get better recruits, we win this, we can pay more players better money, we win this, we don't have results that show losing records at home. And I wanted to mention this: 36-4 is High Point's record at the Cobain Center over the past 3 seasons. That's current with tonight's loss against SIU. So if that is the goal and that
yeah,
is what we're trying to build at High Point, then it can't be, oh, well, all we got to do is win that one tournament and we're okay. We can still get to the NCAA tournament. I agree with that for the comment that, hey, the season doesn't stop here with Southern Illinois. I agree. There's lots of basketball left to be played, and this one game will not define the whole season. That's not necessarily what I'm saying or arguing here. I am just going to say we gotta as High Point fans. I wanted to start with us because I think the team is already there. I think that I know the head coach, I know Flynn is already there. We don't lose. We just don't. We don't accept failure.
yeah,
We're so blessed at High Point with all the resources. These are words that I've heard Flynn share. We're so blessed. We have all the resources and all the things on our side that we don't accept failure. We don't accept losing. And so that's where we as
yeah.
fans have to also get to, because we got it. We got to want to be better than just, oh, we're a Big South team and one bid league.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I guess just to clarify, but I say we didn't have anything to lose, but what I kind of meant was we're not. This isn't end of February and we're a 25-win team playing an 8-win team. Like this isn't one of those scenarios where SIU had nothing to play for and we had a lot to play for. This is a game where, yes, what we have to lose is losing a home game in a place where we don't lose home games. And to the original comment, I can't remember, I guess it's Garrett said, teams like this don't championship teams don't lose games like that at home, and that's 100% true. So just to clarify, I didn't mean we didn't have anything to lose. I just meant it wasn't a scenario where one team had less to lose than the other, in my opinion. I think that it was a game we had to go out and execute and play with matched our effort, and energy. I'm not sure that we did for 40 minutes, but it's not the end of the world either. You gotta take it, learn from it, get better. And like I said, as long as you're getting better and working on it, there's no reason for any fans to look at this loss and start spiraling out on this team. Like, there's still a lot of positives, and a lot of things that can go well.
I'm with you, Sam. I really just unleashed a whole bottle of fun there because honestly, it gave me a platform to do it. So don't take any of that personal. Actually, I want to talk about Sam for a second. And that is to say that Sam is somebody that attends a lot of basketball games for High Point. And honestly, I want to use Sam again as a moment to share how disappointed, honestly, I am in, I'll just say, the student body of High Point tonight. This game coming in on a night where there's a lot of other college basketball going on. And I understand that. There's ACC, SEC going on. There's some really good matchups. There's lots happening in the sports world. I also realize that, yes, finals are approaching, and yes, it's cold, and all the other things that could be used as excuses. But I really just don't get it as somebody that did go to the university, and I am an alum and I'm a fan. I can't understand, and I can't also share how discouraged I am about our student body not showing up to support this team tonight, because that too is a part of it, in my opinion. The way that this team came out of halftime reflected how low energy and how flat it seemed. And so you can't have that if you're a basketball school. We spent a portion of the Proud Panthers podcast in the summertime leading up to the season talking with athletic director Dan Hauser, and he identified and highlighted an abundant amounts of ways that our success in basketball, going to the NCAA tournament, being competitive, the ways that I just shared a few minutes ago that I would like to see us continue in, and I know we will. He shared how all those ways affected how many students were choosing High Point as their preferred college to attend. I know that there's a lot of amenities at the school, but they saw from the school level, not me saying this, but from the school level, they saw an increase and a success from athletic success, like our High Point basketball team. And so then you're going to tell me that you can't show up for a basketball game on your campus against a team I'm not going to say if you are anybody that follows basketball, but if you just honestly think about mid-major basketball, then you'll realize that Southern Illinois is a program that's been around. They've done a thing or two. This isn't playing Averett earlier in the season. So I don't understand it. And I know that our team would desire us to have students swamped outside with tailgates. They would desire people lined up to the gills to try to get in and fit in the seats. Man, I will never forget, while I'm on this topic, when High Point hosted the Big South tournament. There were, for both the games that High Point was a part of for that conference tournament season. For both of those two games, there were High Point students sprawled so far out of their respective marked sections that they were in seats of people that had bought tickets. And I remember sitting there watching event staff and security and people that are at the university level scramble to try to appease these people that had spent their money on tickets, and now their seat was absorbed by the students. Because we all know at High Point, we care about the student and their enjoyment, and we don't want to turn them away, turn them down, or disappoint or upset them. And it's great. That's awesome. That's part of one of the things I love about the university. But I just remember and recall that time. And now tonight, it's like, hey, we're a one-loss team coming off of an NCAA tournament berth a season ago, picked and favored by numerous publications and talking heads and people, and our students don't want to show up for that. That's disappointing because, as I mentioned there in our talk with Sam, during the 23-24 season inside the Cobain Center, 16-2. Last season inside the Cobain Center, 16-1. So far this season, with tonight's blemish, 4-1 inside our, people like to call it knee dome. I like to call it inside our the Q, inside the Q. So 36-4 over the past two and portion of this season. And we can't show up to support the team. That's very upsetting to me. We're 10:45 East Coast time, well past my bedtime, if you know anything about me, because I also generally am not a fan and upset when college basketball games tip off at 9:30, like these TV heads like to force feed us. So I'm not going to labor too much longer here on Prowled Live, but what I will say is we have a lot more off of this game that I think we can discuss. I do think, and generally I would encourage other fans to realize that the team, the staff, the people inside of that locker room, they do use these types of games like this to learn from. They don't chalk it up with just anger and upset reaction like sometimes I do. They actually go to the film. They study this. That was mentioned to me. There's a lot off of this that will be learned in a short period, because don't take too much of a breather. We've got another game on the horizon with NJIT coming up Friday inside the Cobain Center as well. So if you're a student or you have access to them, drag their butts to the knee dome or the Q and say, hey, get you a blinky light wristband like tonight. Enjoy 2 hours of basketball and cheer this team on and help them out. I appreciate all of those that were with us tonight on Prowled Live. We'll try to continue to do it like this. If it was a success, I feel like it was a little bit easier for me as opposed to the spaces, but you never know. We might go back and forth. Be sure to tune in on Friday to our Proud Panthers podcast, because on that episode, we will have commentary from Coach Clayman. We will also have more of my organized thoughts where I've had a second to consider and take in things. And in the meantime, anytime you get a chance, we hope you'll visit us over at prowledsports.com, articles and thoughts and videos and all sorts of stuff there for you as well. We'll see you next time after Friday's game against NJIT right here on Prowled Live.